Today, we're talking about Kibble, which is so user-friendly, very easy to understand, no scary marketing required, very simple. That's not true at all. Kibble is the most common convenience food that people feed their dogs, and the bag can be kind of terrifying. This is a totally generic, name-free bag of kibble that I feed my dog. But sometimes the bag of kibble can be very hard to understand. And basically, we want to teach you how better to read any bag of kibble that you may come across. Let me introduce you to a concept at Long Dog that we call SIP. This is sourcing, ingredients, and processing. These are just a few of the key elements to decoding an ingredient panel on a kibble, and sometimes even the company behind it. So let's dive in and start with sourcing. Pet food companies are not always very transparent about the sourcing of their ingredients. And unless you do some digging around online and the company does provide any specific information, it's gonna be hard to know for sure. Why does the sourcing matter, pet food lady? Let me tell you. You really want to know where your ingredients are coming from to determine the quality of the food. Most bags of kibble are not going to tell you where it comes from, but there are a few legal terms that you can use to decipher what's up with the meat in the bag. Premium, gourmet, and natural mean absolutely nothing! As stated by the FDA, products labeled as premium or gourmet are not required to contain any different or higher quality ingredients, nor are they held up to any higher nutritional standards than are any other complete and balanced products. So literally anyone can slap that term on a bag and run with it. Cage-free animals are cage-free. However, these animals probably never see the light of day. They're fed a corn or soy diet, and they have about 1 square inch per bird. Free range sounds nice, but these birds get less than 2 square feet each. They get some kind of outdoor access, but that's totally up in the air, non-regulated, could be a window. We don't know. Gold standard of sourcing that you want to see on your bag is pasture raised. They tend to be let out of their barns early, they're called back by nightfall, and while they're out, they get to eat whatever grass, bugs, or feed that they have available to them. While there's so many other different ways to tell where these ingredients are sourced from, this is pretty much what you can get from just reading a bag of kibble. So let's move on to the ingredients. First of all, if a whole meat is not your first ingredient, maybe move on to a different one. Remember, ingredients are listed in order of how much is in the bag. So if the first ingredient is corn, that's what your pet is eating. Next, byproducts and unnamed meats are kind of gross. If you see something like organ or poultry meat, what does that mean? We don't know. Next, you have meat meals. They're very, very common in kibble, and if you see them high up on the list, you think, oh, well, it's meat, it's high on the list, it must be pretty good. However, the way that a meat meal is processed is by cooking it down into basically a powder. So by that point, after it's cooked into a meal and then cooked into a kibble, what nutrients are left? AFCO says that byproduct is what is left over after the intended product has been made. So if you're feeding a food with a byproduct, you may as well be giving your dog the table scraps that you don't want to eat, like that weird piece of chicken that has cartilage in it that you spit out on your plate. Ew. Next, this is not one that's talked about a whole lot, but you read down your ingredient panel and you see all these vitamins and you go, wow, cool, my dog's getting their vitamins. Seeing individual vitamins on an ingredient panel means that they're synthetic and they were added in later. But if you see less synthetic vitamins at the bottom of your ingredient panel and you see more organ meats like liver and heart at the top of the list, that's where all your vitamins are. In order for a food to be complete and balanced, those vitamins do need to be in there. So just because you don't see them individually listed doesn't mean that they're not there naturally occurring in those organ meats up at the top. Again, you could dive so much deeper into the ingredients of a kibble, but this is pretty much all that we can tell from reading the bag itself. So let's move on to the processing. It is next to impossible to tell from a bag of kibble what the processing was. If we're talking about all kinds of pet foods, you have your freeze-dried, your air-dried, your dehydrated, your raw, and that's the processing right there. However, with a bag of kibble, you basically have two options. You have plain old kibble that does not specify how it was made, which means usually that it's an extruded kibble, or you have oven-baked kibble. Extruded means that it's just kibble dough being pushed through a machine and then chopped up into kibble pieces. Then there's your oven-baked kibble, which is baked at a lower temperature to help preserve the vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and sometimes even the taste of the food. Most likely, a brand is not going to tell you specifically what temperature the kibble was baked at on the bag, but the less processing a food goes through, the more nutrients it holds and the better it is for your pet. SIP just barely scratches the surface of all that there is to know about your food, and it's basically just a way to help you glance at a bag of kibble and determine whether or not you want to feed it. But of course, we always encourage you to do your own research. The company that's worthy of your money and your trust is the one that's the most transparent. Check brands' websites for more information on their food and sourcing practices. Stella & Chewy's tells you which countries it sources each different protein from, and Open Farm actually lets you input the lot number on your product and gives you the certificate of analysis for your actual bag. Just like you, we want the best for your pet, so don't just take our word for it. Do your research, talk to your vet, and as always, thanks for watching.